Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Relationships, sex, passion with Dr. Lori Petito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Welcome to Passion, the show all about love, sex, and relationships. I'm Dr. Lori Petito. I'm a clinical psychologist and sex therapist. Tonight, it is our regular monthly feature that we call Dating Dilemmas, and I am joined by Frank Kermit, who is a dating coach, a best-selling author and educator, and a relationship columnist for the West End Times newspaper. He joins me every month here to discuss specific topics, certain, dilemmas about dating and relationships. So tonight, we're going to talk about taking it to the next level, or moving it to the next level, because some people have a lot of questions about that. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Lori. Great to be here. And this is show number 24, our second year anniversary.
Hey, happy anniversary. 2 years of Dating Dilemmas. Wonderful. Well, it's a good marriage.
So far, so good.
So, good relationship. And we're going to talk about good relationships and trying to make them good by moving it to the next level. When do we move it to the next level? Have you ever been to move it to the next level, but another person did not? How do you resolve all of that? So we're here to help you with that. But before we start, I just want to make sure we talk about this, that you're starting to run some free workshops on relationships, which are like relationship 101 classes, basically, for singles and couples.
That's right. It's going to happen Saturday nights starting in May, Saturday, May 5th, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's a 2-hour workshop. Every week will be a different topic. And
also it's going to be interactive, from what I understand, right? So
the first hour is going to be the lecture of the week, a unique topic. And the second hour is going to be a group dynamic where everybody has to participate. I'm going to tell a story, and then I'm going to present the emotional needs of men, the emotional needs of women, and it's going to be up to the crowd to decide.
Figure it out.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good way to learn how to figure it out anyhow. So these are workshops that are free, open to the public. You're invited to go. You just have to reserve your spot by contacting Frank at franktalks.com if you want to attend any of these workshops. So let's talk about, Frank, first of all, I guess we need to identify what all the different relationship types, or the hierarchy of relationships, because they're all the different levels, right?
Exactly. When I started coaching, I found that trying to explain to people when they should commit to someone, when they should hold off committing to them, was a very difficult process, because people think that it's based solely on how you feel.
Right.
Well, if I don't feel like committing, I won't. And if I do feel like committing, I should. But the fact is, there's so many other things that factor in, and it's not just how you feel. It's about whether or not that person is actually right for you to enter a serious relationship.
It's interesting you say that, because I have a different, when I talk about it, I talk about how love is not enough. It's never enough. That's just the feeling. But what about all the other elements that make for a relationship? Love is one component of the relationship, but there's so much more that goes into it. So
I think a number of people were brought up with the notion that love will solve everything.
Yeah, that's right.
And it doesn't really work that way. Even when you love somebody tremendously, if a behavior that they're enacting on a regular basis conflicts with some of your personal values, in a matter of time, you're going to start to resent that person, no matter how much you love them.
At the beginning, yeah.
Exactly. And eventually that resentment is going to overpower whatever romantic love you had for them at the beginning.
Right. And that's how resentment works. And it turns into contempt, and contempt turns into, that's about as far as you can go before the breakup.
Exactly.
For sure. Okay, so we're talking about, let's go through the hierarchy of different places you can be in a relationship. They may sound obvious, but I think we need to run them.
But it's not, actually.
Right.
At the very bottom of the hierarchy, we have a friend, and this is specifically a friend that you have a romantic interest in that doesn't return it.
Okay.
This is at the absolute bottom of the hierarchy, and the reason that it's taught this way is because somebody who maybe is in love with one of their friends and is just hoping that their friend is just going to wake up one day and see what a great person is standing right in front of them. When you get into that dynamic, it could be emotionally damaging to the person because they get used to the idea of unrequited love. They get used to the idea that they should not be receiving love for all the love that they give. This is a bad dynamic.
Right.
The next step up is the person you have a one-night stand with. And this is a major conflict when I'm working with people, for them to understand that why is it that I could have a one-night stand with a stranger and that should be more valuable to me than the friend I'm in love with but not dating. It's because that stranger or that one-night stand you have, that's still somebody giving you sex. That's still somebody
There's
paying
an
you
exchange, right?
as an exchange.
Right.
There's still an even exchange. If nothing else, it's a wonderful compliment. The friend who likes you but doesn't like you enough in that way to date you, that's an insult. And until you wake
But
up...
they don't mean to insult you. They just don't feel that way.
I agree. Now, they may not mean to insult you, but the person on the receiving end of it thinks, oh, I understand, so you like me, but not enough. Until I start teaching them and saying, no, listen, you should be a little bit insulted that they know you. This is not a complete stranger they have to get to know. They actually know you. They can know what it is you have to offer. And if they can't recognize it or see what you see...
But what if they recognize it but don't feel an attraction to? I mean, there's that level too, right?
Yes, but they're not willing to give it a chance. They're not willing to try and say, okay, well, you know what? I know you. I like you as a person. I've never thought about you that way, but I'm willing to give it a go. Let's go out on a date and see what happens.
How do you switch from the friend to the date?
When you're on a date, you would actually do things that you would do normally on a date. You'll hold hands. If the person...
On the first date, you're going to hold hands?
Well, under my philosophy, you could do a lot more on a first date if it's successful.
Okay.
The idea is that if the person that knows you well enough isn't even willing to give it a shot and to go out on a date that has that good night kiss at the end of the night, well, they're not willing to give you a chance, so their value in your life is not going to be a strong one. Because for you to constantly subject yourself to unreturned love is a bad place for you to be.
Yeah, it's a bad place.
That's why it's at the bottom of the hierarchy, and the next step up is the one-night stand person who, at the very least, they're giving you a chance. If they don't like it, it's just a one-night stand. But if they do like it, they may come back.
Right.
The next step up is friends with benefits.
That could be a dangerous situation.
Very dangerous if you cannot manage it well, because it's very simple.
Yeah. And we will talk about that, because I've got a situation I want to share with you on that one.
Brilliant. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Friends with benefits. You're friends, you're intimate, but nobody knows about it.
Right.
And there are certain rules to making a friends with benefits a successful relationship dynamic.
After that, what's the next level up?
This is where we deal with a non-exclusive partner. The difference between friends with benefits and non-exclusive partner is that with a non-exclusive partner, you are publicly a couple. People know that the two of you are at least dating or getting to know one another, but you're allowed to see other people because you're dating casually. Friends with benefits is secret. Nobody's supposed to know that the two of you are hooking up.
We'll talk about the next 3 levels up coming up and moving it to the next level tonight on Dating Dilemmas. You're listening to Passion on CJD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on CJAD 800.
Tonight on Passion, dating dilemmas, moving it to the next level. So we're talking about the hierarchy of relationships, and at the bottom of the barrel, we're talking about a friend you're in love with who's not returning your love. Not a great place to be. Then you've got the one-night stand. Then you've got the friends with benefits. Then you have the non-exclusive partner. Then you have...
If you're going to be a monogamist, you have the exclusive partner. And if you're going to practice non-monogamy, you have a primary non-exclusive partner.
Okay.
Now, the idea here is that in the category beneath, when you're dealing with a non-exclusive partner, you are publicly recognized as a couple, but you're still open to dating other people. It's just that it's not behind closed doors. You'll go out to restaurants together, be affectionate in public together, hold hands.
Right. You each know that this is happening.
Exactly.
All right. Because it's not fun when one person is non-exclusive and the other one doesn't know it.
That's cheating. And that's
but hold on. It may not be cheating in the sense that if it's a beginning of a relationship and you just never discussed it. You know, one person can just assume that, oh, okay, we're a couple, but it's never actually said officially. And the other person's saying, no, we're just dating. And so they're thinking in their heads, well, I'm dating this person, I'm dating that person. So it's not cheating when in your own head you're thinking, well, I'm not in a relationship with this person.
That's one of the reasons that every expectation you have, including exclusivity, has to be discussed.
So it has to be out on the table.
Exactly. And if you're not talking about it and you're not communicating it, well, then your relationship can't possibly be expected to be more serious than it actually is.
So you can't really move it to the next level unless you have these discussions.
Well, moving it to the next level requires consent from both parties.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of the mistakes that people make in trying to figure out whether or not they should move to the next level. They, in my terminology, promote somebody up the hierarchy before that person's actually earned it. Mm-hmm. They've just met, they've had 2 or 3 dates, and one person's thinking, oh, I can't wait for us to spend the rest of our lives together. Well, hold on. Did you talk to the other person about whether or not that's something they want? Have they earned it by saying, yeah, I want that too?
Right.
And if they haven't gone through that process, you've promoted them a lot higher than they've earned. And this is the source of a lot of pain for people.
Yeah, and a lot of letdowns and sure, a lot of pain. Okay, so we go from the exclusive or the primary non-exclusive, which is more or less the same, but monogamy versus non-monogamy, which is open. So an open relationship versus not an open relationship.
The next step up, regardless of what relationship structure you're in, is the fiancé. This is where you have made a public declaration that you plan to build a future with this person. Now, even if you don't believe in marriage, that's okay. You can still make a public declaration that you want to spend the rest of your life with this person, build a future with this person, have children with this person.
Right, but you've had this discussion,
You've
clearly.
talked about it. You've talked about it. And if you've presented yourself in public saying, this is my life partner, this is my partner, this is my everything, here's my better half,
right.
Whatever terminology you want to use.
Right.
But you have to present yourself in public as that item, as that level.
Right.
Finally, at the top of the hierarchy is a spouse, someone you are married to and or legally committed to building a future with. And
so living together would you consider that a spouse?
I think living together is a symptom of one of the hierarchies. For example, you can live with a fiance, and some people may have the rule, I will have to live with my fiance for 2 years before we actually set a date. Other people may say, well, no, you can only live with somebody after you're married, and that's the criteria for someone being a spouse. For some people, they need to be an exclusive partner. They have to live together before they even consider moving up to being a fiance.
Right. Or some people just don't believe in the marriage thing, and so that's the end of their hierarchy.
Exactly.
Right.
This has to be tailored to each person's individual taste.
But it has to be discussed, because if one person's philosophy is, I don't believe in marriage, and so I just believe in moving in together, but the other person thinks, well, moving in together is the next step towards marriage, we're in trouble.
That's right. And this is part of the problem, because everybody just assumes, oh, my partner will get to know me, will love me enough, they're going to change. And if you want to make relationships work, you have to take people on an as-is basis.
Right. Somebody texts in, how about one gets an escort? Those are the best relationships. I don't call those relationships.
They can be for people who struggle with intimacy.
In your own mind, because you're paying somebody.
Well, the same way that a one-night stand is a relationship structure.
Okay.
And if you're going to go out and be with escorts on a regular basis, that might be the amount of intimacy you can handle. You might not be able to handle more emotional intimacy than that.
I would hope you could learn so that you can have something more fulfilling than paying for somebody to do. Again, they're not emotionally invested in you. If you stop paying them, they stop coming.
That's right. But for some people, you have to remember that you can't look at the prostitute or the escort here as the problem or the issue. The issue is the person who's paying for it. That might be the only way they can experience any sense of intimacy. For some people, it's a control issue. As long as I'm paying the money, I feel I have some sense of control of what's going on here, and that's the only way I can feel safe to be intimate. There are people who don't have sex with just anybody. They will only have sex with an escort for reasons of that nature.
Very interesting. Moving it to the next level on our dating dilemmas, you too can join the discussion at 514-790-0991 or text us at 514-800. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
If you need help with your relationships, well, my buddy Frank here has got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's, 'cause he knows what you are going through. Frank has been there too, so log on to franktalks.com, to franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Betito on CJAD 800.
Moving it to the next level tonight on Passion with Frank Kermit, who is a relationship dating coach. He's also the founder of franktalks.com. And just so you know, he's giving free workshops starting in May. It's taking place in NDG on Sherbrooke Street. You've got to, what do you call it? Reserve your spot. By getting in touch with him, Frank at franktalks.com. These are weekly sessions for adult singles and couples. Anybody who wants to learn about relationships, sometimes just the basics of relationships and relating to people. So people who need maybe more social skills training and, who have trouble approaching, maybe men who have trouble approaching women, or women who are having trouble connecting or what have you. This is a good opportunity to get some help and meet other people too, which is also, a double, well,
one of the things
two things you get out of it.
One of the things I'm so excited about with this project is that while we're doing our emotional needs analysis, this is where I'm going to be training people in the audience how to immediately identify the other person's emotional needs. If we have people getting into conversation, I'm going to start having them do Insta-dates.
Forget speed dating, Insta-dates.
It's Insta-date time.
I like that.
If let's say we get a guy and he stands up and he starts saying, okay, I understand women's emotional needs like this, this, and this. I'll say, that's brilliant. Are there any women here who would actually be willing to date this guy right now? And if one hand goes up, I'll say, okay, you two, go talk in a corner, come back in 10 minutes, and we'll start Insta-dating as well. So it could be a great opportunity to meet people.
Yeah, it is. Just getting out, especially for people who need to get out of their shell. Who need to just get out there in a safe kind of environment with the coach, and they're coached through this. And this is what's good about some of the stuff that you do, of course. 514-790-0991. Are they serving food? Somebody wants to know. Are you serving food? Donuts? Donuts, anyone? Bring your own food.
No, we won't be serving food, but you never know. If there's enough of a demand and enough people show up, we never know where...
Potluck.
This could morph into something amazing. There will be a suggestion box. And if you have a particular topic that you want to see me present, I'll do it.
Right.
Because every week it's going to be something different.
Right.
And I'm looking for ideas that if you have something you want discussed, you have something that you're burning just to see presented, I'm your man. I'm going to get that done.
Wonderful. Great. And that's starting in May. We're talking about taking it to the next level. And I've got a couple of questions for our audience as well. Have you ever wanted to take your relationship to a next level, maybe for a more serious commitment, but the person you were dating resisted that or wasn't interested in that? Have you ever had a friend that you wanted to date and you wanted to go from a friendship to a relationship, but you didn't know how to get there? And what about people who make mistakes or think they've made a mistake where they take the relationship to the next level, maybe because of outside pressure, whatever it is, could be any of these things, and they're backtracking, thinking, uh-oh, is it cold feet, or is it really evaluating and thinking, maybe, just maybe, I messed up here and I made a mistake? We're going to try to address all of these, get some of your input here on the show. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight, and we are talking about taking it to the next level. We got a call who somebody wanted to know, Frank, about your for the workshops. They don't have a computer, so we'll give out the phone number 514-680-FAST. 514-680-FAST. 680-3278. So did you get that? 680-3278 in the 514 area code, so you can reserve your spot and find out more about the workshops.
Best time to call would be business hours from 9 to 5.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, I want to give you a little scenario, and you tell me that this is a situation that presented itself to me today. So a young guy who was friends with this woman, good friends, you know, they would hang out in the same kind of circles and what have you. He was interested in her. They were good friends, so they hung out a lot, they talked a lot. And she says to him, I'm not interested in a relationship. I just left a relationship. I like you. I like hanging out with you. We can talk, we can do stuff, but I don't get attached to me because I don't want a relationship. However, they went on to do relationship stuff, like they traveled together, they, went out together, hung out together, texted many times a day, etc., etc. Of course, turned out the guy had his heart broken at some point. So what went wrong? Here's a perfect situation about one person wanting to take it to the next level and the other person not, had set out the rules from the beginning. But, of course, how do you help those feelings, evolve?
Okay, well, this is a very common situation.
Okay.
The mistake they made is that they were friends with benefits. They were friends, they were intimate, but there was no commitment, there was no escalation of the relationship hierarchy. The problem is that they didn't act like friends with benefits.
That's right.
They acted at the very least like a non-exclusive relationship, and if they were not dating other people, then they're acting like an exclusive relationship. The only time you ever do that with a friends with benefits is when you're dealing with somebody who's coming in from out of town and maybe only in town for a couple of weeks to maybe a month. At that point, you spend as much time as you can together because you know it's a limited affair.
Right.
The mistake they made is they said, okay, we'll just be friends, we'll just have sex, and it'll be fine. But they were seeing each other multiple times a week. You only do that if you promote somebody up the hierarchy. Look,
I think they were hoping, like the person was really hoping, as they promoted them up the hierarchy, that she would somehow follow, that somehow it would turn her around.
Right. He was going on the hope, but that's unethical because he has an expectation that he's not expressing. He's saying, I hope she's going to change her mind, and the more time she spends with me, the more likely she is to change her mind.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. Now, yes, when you're having sex with somebody, it's only natural that feelings are going to develop. The same way that when you have two people living together in a platonic environment, once again, it's only natural that feelings may develop. Part of the reason that you structure the friends with benefits where you only see the person once, occasionally twice a week, is because it forces you to remember that, well, this is not a relationship that has a long-term potential. I'm only seeing this person once or twice a week. I'm spending the rest of my time on my own, and therefore I should be going out trying to meet somebody new who I can promote up the hierarchy.
Right.
That's where they made their mistake. If they had only seen each other once or twice a week, and instead of these, well, we're going to go on vacation together, we're going to go out in public together. No, you're friends with benefits. You're not supposed to be going out in public. You're not supposed to be letting everybody know and showing yourselves as a public relationship couple.
And acting like a couple. I think that's
Exactly.
where you fall into, because sometimes somebody's words say something, but we believe the behaviors more, and the words don't match with the behaviors. So
Some of the questions I'll get is, I have a friends with benefits, and my friends with benefits asked me to accompany them to a wedding. What should I do? The answer is no.
yeah.
You don't, because at that point you're acting like a public couple, and you're causing confusion. You're leading the other person on.
Right. Text message. Again, somebody's quick with their same person. Where are these friends with benefits? I never meet women like that. Another text message. I find myself looking for a very specific woman or very specific women. The problem is it hasn't happened in 45 years. Should I lower my standards or face being alone? That's a good question.
Great question. Okay, let's look at the other one very quickly. Where are these friends with benefits that you never meet? Almost every friend you have is a potential friends with benefits. Chances are they don't trust you for some reason to even approach you with it. You're behaving in a way that doesn't make them feel safe. Start trying to protect people's reputations. Watch what you say and shut your mouth. You might find that people are more receptive to you and are willing to take chances with you when they know that they can trust you with their reputations.
Okay.
Now, for the person who's saying that they haven't met anybody in 45 years, is it a question of lowering your standards? Well, my feeling is this. If your standards are higher than your social skill level, that's an issue of intimacy.
When you mean your social skill level, what do you really mean? Because
Your ability to attract somebody,
okay,
how you relate to other people, your ability to actually meet somebody and go on a date. I won't call it your attractiveness, because with attractiveness, most people just assume it's physical.
yeah, but it's not. We know it's a whole bunch of things.
Exactly.
It's even how you hold a conversation with somebody.
Exactly. If your social skills are lower than your standards, people who have high standards and lower social skills and refuse to lower their standards, usually there's a deep-rooted fear of intimacy. It's the excuse they need to stay out of relationships.
So tell me about those social skills. You look. I don't know if I would call them. I'm not sure. I mean, there's some of that is the skills that you have that you're not relating, but also being aware of what it is you're offering, and sometimes we don't look at what we're offering. We're just looking at the top of what we want without really evaluating, well, hold on, maybe what I've got to look at, be more realistic about what I have to offer.
Exactly.
To find the equivalent to me.
Well, it's basically the person is saying, I want an absolute 10, meanwhile they themselves are not a 10.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
But when I've worked with people like this, especially in the adult male virgin population and sometimes the adult female virgin populations that I work with, usually the high standards with the low value that they already come to the table with is usually just that. There's a fear of intimacy there. They're looking for a reason to stay out of relationships, and that's what it is. My standards are too high. I can't meet anybody. Because they're too afraid to make themselves emotionally vulnerable to take a chance and just start dating who they can.
Right.
The rule is you start dating who you can. If there's somebody you know that's interested in you right now and you haven't had the chance to be with anybody in a year, date everybody you can.
Right.
The more people,
At least get in the game.
Exactly.
Like it's a question of getting used to the whole dating thing. And I always say practice. When you're dating, you're actually practicing your social skills.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody you feel they're not, you never get past, let's say, the first date, ask yourself the questions. What is it? Don't always blame the other person, but look at what is it I'm doing, possibly, that is turning that person away.
You are the common element in every relationship you've ever had.
Right, you're the common denominator.
So the rule is, yes, you lower your standards, get out there, date as many people as you can. The goal of dating isn't to find the one. The goal of dating is to find you. You need to learn about who you are, what you can handle, what you can't handle. It's not about the person you date today is automatically going to be your future spouse.
Yeah.
It's think about the type of marriage you have. Think about the type of marriage you want to have.
Right.
And you start dating today to figure out whether or not you can handle it, whether or not you're the type of person who could have that marriage. And you're practicing, like you said, you're getting to know how to relate to other people.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Rather than just facing being alone and putting down your arms and saying, I give up. Don't give up. Just get out there. And yeah, I think you need to lower those standards a little bit to get out there.
Well, some people are so afraid of being hurt because maybe they got hurt really, really bad a long time ago and they're not willing to take that chance again. So they're waiting for the perfect moment for the perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect person. We're all human beings. Even in the best of relationships, even the best of couples get on each other's nerves.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's never perfect. And as one of my regular guests, Myrna, the astrologer, says, you don't find a soulmate, you become somebody's soulmate.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, isn't that good?
Oh, that's nice.
I know. 514-790-0991. Star Talk, star 8255 on your Bell Mobility cell phone, and or you can have to hear some of your thoughts. Tonight we're talking about moving it to the next level. We'll talk about what are the reasons that someone would not want to commit. We talked about the fear of intimacy is one. What are some other reasons why we don't want to commit and take it to the next level? You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
If you need help with your relationships, well, my buddy Frank here has got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom, 'cause he knows what you are going through. Frank has been there too, so log on to franktalks.com, to franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Betito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion. We're talking about taking it to the next level. We've got Karen on the line. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Dr. Lori.
How are you?
And hello to your guest. By the way, I was the one that called and said I didn't have a computer, so I'll be calling your guest.
Okay, good.
I'm listening to what he's saying, and there's just something I want to add to about, openly, dating people. And that is to be cautious. From my experience, I think it's very important because some people can become obsessed very quickly and make your life miserable for a very long time. Maybe he hasn't had that experience, but as a woman, I've had that a few times.
And that's the difference, I think, between men and women. I think that's what women fear more than anything, and that we do have to be more cautious. But I think, Frank, you'll tell us that it's quite different for men, don't you?
It's very different for men and women, and just to answer your question, I actually have had women be obsessive with me and showing up to my place of work and unannounced, so I can definitely relate.
Yeah.
And there's two things I got to say about that. As a man, most men are not on the receiving end of sexual attention. They're on the projecting end of it. For a woman, she tends to be on the receiving end of sexual attention.
Yes.
So when I'm saying you have to date as many people as possible, it was in specific reference to that person who wrote saying, I haven't been able to meet the right woman because my standards are too high.
Right.
The difference between men and women is this. If a woman decides that she wants to date somebody, all she has to say is, okay. And there's enough people that are going to want to take her out, try to sweep her off her feet. And unfortunately, some of them are going to be creepy. And this is where we look at
this is why we have to be careful, and which is why we're, women start to feel picky and say there's no good men out there, because, sometimes you feel there's more creeps than anything else.
Exactly. It's about identifying the red flags, and we go through that process. For men, however, because they are on the projecting end of sexual attention, if they don't pursue, and if they're not women who are already interested in them, they can end up alone for a long, long time. And it's wonderful that you called in and that you brought up that topic. We all have to be careful.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right. Enjoy the workshop.
Okay.
All right, Karen.
Bye.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye. 514-790-0991. So taking it to the next level, how is it that what blocks some people from moving a relationship to the next level? It's amazing how many times I see couples that stay stagnant for a very long time in one level and never do take it to the next level. What is it with these couples?
Well, for some people, they may not be ready to commit. Some of these people are waiting until they've established a certain lifestyle. They want to finish school before they get more serious. They want to be able to save up enough money before they take it to the next level. For other people, it's because they really don't know what they want. And until they figure out what they want, they don't want to go ahead and make a commitment or make a promise that they're not sure whether or not they should keep. Other people are already feeling that they're not dating the person that they want to be with long term. So they're just saying, well, I really don't want us to get more serious, as opposed to saying, I don't see a future for us.
It's interesting because I've heard that from people who say, who, let's say after a breakup, will say, well, I never really wanted to marry her. But I want to, but I'm not sure that the other person really knew that.
Of course not, because they're going to judge you on your actions. And if you stay in a relationship when you don't intend to be with that person long term, you're doing something unethical. You're misleading the other person.
Yeah, I don't think people really intend to because they're trying to figure who they are and what they want in
Well,
that.
you
But
know what? You know what? Everybody's got to take responsibility for their behaviors.
Yeah.
If you know that you do not intend to marry the person you're with, you have to encourage them to date other people. Because keeping them there is wasting their time.
But sometimes we tell ourselves that they want the same things we do, which is not,
If you lie
this,
to-
right? People fool themselves
Look,
all the time.
People are in denial. People are going to lie to themselves. They still have to take responsibility for that, because until they do, they don't break the repeating behavior pattern, and they're going to do it to someone else again.
Right.
We have to remember that when you're out there and you're dating people, you have to think that there are consequences for the other person. One of the philosophies I teach is everybody has the right to seek out their soulmates without interference. And when you're keeping somebody from meeting other people, and or you are at least have the inkling that you don't want to be with this person long term,
Let them go.
let them go. At the very least say, I'm only going to date you 2-3 times a week. Those other nights, make sure that you're dating somebody else, because I'm going to be doing
How many
it.
people do you know who actually do that? I don't know too many who are
I think it's
that
growing.
honest.
I think it's growing. I think the number
You
of
think?
people, because they see their parents, their siblings, their friends and whatnot, they see everybody struggling with relationships, that they're not so ready to go ahead and be committed to somebody when they're not sure. I think the number of people who are going to do more casual dating is growing because they want to be sure. Nobody goes into relationships hoping for a divorce.
No, that's for darn sure. Dating dilemmas, we still have a little bit of time, so if you have any comments you'd like to make at 514-800 or call us at 514-790-0991. We'd love to hear from you. This is Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas once a month. Frank Kermit joins us. You can find him on Facebook, Frank B. Kermit. And, of course, you can also attend his free workshops starting in May. Weekly 2-hour workshops, free to the public. They're 18 plus, so they're just for adults, either single or in couples who want to learn about relationships. Call it Relationships 101. Go from the basics and move on up. That's what they are about. Frank at franktalks.com is how you can reach Frank. So we're talking about moving it to the next level. How do we, couples that do move it to the next level, are there characteristics of, like, what do we look for, or how can we tell if our partner, besides them saying, I want to marry you, that they really are committed and want to move it?
You know, it's so difficult to know because people lie to themselves, as we talked about. Sometimes they're going to lie for other reasons. Sometimes you're dealing with people who are just dealing with peer pressure. There's so much pressure from their family and their friends and their culture and their peer groups to say, well, you should have a boyfriend, or you should have a girlfriend by this age.
Or it's about time you get married. You've been together 3 years.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, we're still not used to being able to say to people, back off. That really isn't your place to say.
Right.
I remember having this discussion with parents once where they were saying, well, my son is 30 years old and I think it's time he find a girlfriend and he settle down. And I said, listen, if you push your son to do something that he does not want to do or he's not ready to do, you're not only going to be dealing with, yes, you'll have a married son in 2 years, you're going to have a divorced son in 6 years with a grandkid from a broken home. Is that what you want?
Right.
Oh, no.
And I have seen that happen a lot, which is very interesting from people who married young, from cultures where dating was kind of was frowned upon, or where they come from very strict homes where the only people they were allowed to date were really the people that they were eventually going to marry and to get out of the house. So they married young, and they never really discovered who they were. And so 20 years down the line, they kind of and they admit, they say, yes, there was a pressure to get married. Yes, it was the only way for me to get out of the house. Yes, it was the only way for me to have some freedom. And, the guy was nice and he was accepted by the family. And so those were the factors that were looked into, not how I felt necessarily. It was like, okay, well, it's good enough for me to get out of the house, or good enough for me to move on, and do what's expected of me.
You're dealing with people that might be in a bad situation, and this might be the only out that they can maintain some sense of family relation and have some sense of freedom. Yeah. This is why some people get pregnant on purpose, where they use the pregnancy, and that's a whole other can of worms, where they use the pregnancy as, well, we're pregnant, so we have to go and do this.
Yeah. Frank, we could go on and on and on, but if people want to hear more of you, they can just go to your workshops every Saturday, starting in May, Saturday evenings, Frank at franktalks.com. Thanks again for being on the show.
I love being here. Thanks for having me.
And happy 2-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Dr.
Thank
Lori.
you.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Lori Betito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
With your relationships, well, my buddy Frank here has got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's, 'cause he knows what you are going through. Frank has been